Picture this. You're hotter than Indiana Jones, better in a street fight than Batman, not to mention less mopey, richer than Michael DeSanta, and have more adrenaline-pumping hobbies than a heli-skiing James Bond in 1999's The World Is Not Enough. Today, we're talking about Lara Croft, the fierce and buxom Raider of Tombs. We're covering her development, lore, and legacy in today's Hero Unlocked. Limber up those joints, we've got pyramids to scale. Lara Croft is perhaps our finest example of the chimera-like quality popular characters often exhibit. Her development is one that shows characters belong to their audience. Meaning is derived from the value they place upon the work. What starts as one man's quest to build an unconventional, nigh-robotic sexpot winds up as the next generation's feminist icon. The Lara we know and love today very nearly didn't exist. When Core Designs, the UK subsidiary of Eidos, began early development, graphic artist Toby Gard initially envisioned the character as male. Several designs were brought up, but Jeremy Smith, Core Design co-founder, deemed them too derivative of Indiana Jones and requested more originality. It was only then that Gard settled on a female lead and, inspired by Swedish pop singer Nana Cherry and the comic Tank Girl, drafted up several possible versions. These ranged from women who looked like they'd be competing in the Miss Universe competition to hard-faced Nazis ready to unleash violent extremism upon the world. Finally, however, he settled on a voluptuous, gun-toting South American woman named Laura Cruz, complete with the long braid we all know today. Smith, however, was concerned about the viability of a female lead in a male-dominated space. The choice was considered risky, perhaps too risky to bank the cost of production on the hope of success. But ultimately, he was swayed by Gard's confidence in the character. Still, changes had to be made. Eidos management was uncomfortable with Laura's heritage and asked that she be given a British background and a more Anglosphere-friendly name. Thus, Lara Croft was born. Tomb Raider, the first game in the series franchise, was released in 1996 with Lara voiced by Shelley Blond, and it became an instant success. Gard's animation was smooth and natural for its time, something the artist had set out to achieve from the beginning. Forgoing quick animations, the gameplay mechanics showcased the power and possibilities of the Sony PlayStation and the Sega Saturn consoles, which had only been released a year earlier. This proved to be a delight for players, and sales of the game and both consoles enjoyed quite a peak.
You want to talk about peaks? Have you seen OG Lara's boobs? Oh.
I have.
I haven't seen anything that sharp since Madonna's Blonde Ambition tour.
That comb boss still haunts my dreams.
It still annoys me. How do you even expect her to function that way? How could she? She's basically a deadly weapon just walking on the streets. The police would be all over her. I'm sorry, but Officer T and Crumpets would be like, "Whoa, what are you doing? You're obviously trying to mug someone with two shanks on your tits." What are you gonna say? You had an unfortunate fitting at Victoria's Secret? Ooh.
Gard left shortly after Tomb Raider was released, citing lack of creative freedom, specifically in regards to Croft. Core Design continued to make improvements to Croft, now voiced by Judith Gibbons, some of which were seen in Tomb Raider 2, released in 1999.
Farewell, cone boobs. We hardly knew ye.
Tomb Raider 3, released in 98, introduced crawling to the game mechanics. Preceded by an extensive marketing campaign, which featured British glamour model Nell McNeil appearing at stores dressed as Lara Croft, it quickly reached the top of the charts. It wasn't without its faults, however. Players quickly detected a bug that made it impossible to complete a level, and rather than recall PlayStation discs, Eidos released an updated gold edition of the game. Having sold 6 million copies worldwide, it is considered to be the best and most beloved of the classic Tomb Raider games. Every good thing must come to an end, as they say, and after 4 years of non-stop work on Croft, Core Design felt they'd reached the limit of their creativity. Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation was released in 2000, and Lara, voiced by Joniel Elliott, was to meet her end. They killed the character off, trapping her in the dramatic final cave-in that left so many aghast. But there's always one, the proverbial turd in the punch bowl. And for Lara, that was Tomb Raider Chronicles, a haphazardly constructed game comprised of the now-dead hero's loved ones. Together for her memorial service, Lara's friends share tales about the adventurer, and the player leads a temporarily resurrected Lara through these flashbacks, getting snippets of the life she lived outside of the main series lore. Fans were not impressed.
That's such a cop-out. Kill off the character you know you don't know what to do with, and then, oh no, there goes your revenue. Quick, think of something.
At least they let her stay dead.
For a while anyway.
Right, like they didn't pop out from behind the curtain and kind of convince you that she's not actually dead. We got a memorial service, we got closure. We never get that.
God, you're giving me Vampire Diary flashbacks. Do you know how much I cried when Elena drowned? I should have been taking stock in Kleenex for how much I cried. At the very end, her eyes pop open, and you don't know if she's a vampire or not, and then you have to wait almost a year to find out.
You didn't really think Lara would stay dead, did you? In 2003, Core Design released Tomb Raider, Angel of Darkness, a bit of sleight of hand that assured the audience that Croft hadn't truly died in that cave-in. It just took her a while to dig her way out.
Well, so much for that.
Almost a whole year.
Angel of Darkness didn't particularly sell well, however. Core Design rushed their team, eager to release it alongside the first film in the franchise. This resulted in a poorly designed game, one that truly made the audience aware of its flaws. While initial sales were high, mostly due to aggressive marketing, it plateaued quickly, and mixed, often quite negative reviews were quick to follow. At this point, Eidos feared financial trouble, and quickly transferred the series over to Crystal Dynamics, another subsidiary. Toby Gard returned as a consultant, and development for Tomb Raider Legend began. While initial plans involving creating a trilogy that began with Angel of Darkness, the poor reviews ensured the idea was scrapped. A new plot was drafted, and Keeley Hawes was brought on to voice Lara's latest incarnation. In many ways, this was the beginning of the Tomb Raider era we currently know. A deeper character, stronger, with a richer personality and motivations. Realism was now the goal, as opposed to a one-dimensional cyberbabe. Fans were pleased, and the game sold well, leading Crystal Dynamics to release Tomb Raider Anniversary in 2007, a remake of the original game. Underworld, released in 2008, was a continuation of Legend's storyline, and introduced motion capture animation to enhance the realism of movement and facial expression. Sales were lackluster, and for the first time in the series' history, Eidos considered remodeling Lara's proportions to better appeal to the female audience. Japanese company Square Enix acquired Eidos in April 2009, and Crystal Dynamics remained the developer. Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light was the first co-op in the series, and as a whole was designed to humanize Lara, placing her in unique and different situations than any that had come before. While well received by critics, the studio still believed Lara required further reinvention to stay relevant. In 2010, Square Enix announced their gritty reboot of the Lara Croft franchise. It was time for an altogether more human Lara, darker, vulnerable, and, while still beautiful, still equipped with the features players had loved for over a decade. Her Cupid's bow lips, her ponytail, and her general facial proportions. Her wardrobe was updated to something more youthful and current. After a year's delay, Tomb Raider was released in 2013. Lara, now voiced by Camilla Luddington, young and untested, sets on her very first trial by fire. Reviews were overwhelmingly positive, and sales soared. Lara was reborn, and Tomb Raider was given a new life, one that would prove complex, exciting, challenging, and most of all, human. This was and continues to be the best-selling game in the franchise. Rise of the Tomb Raider hit the market in 2015, and again was not universally praised. Square Enix's innovation paid off and furthered their success. The game sold just over 7 million copies globally. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, the most recent edition, was released in September 2018. While not quite reaching the fame of its two predecessors, reviews are generally favorable, and the game mechanics, as well as the fleshed-out, flawed human Lara, continues to delight fans worldwide.
Wait, you mean that's the end? Really?
Finally, that took forever. I could have written my dissertation in how long this took.
Are you writing a dissertation?
No, but I could have.
Lara Croft is depicted as beautiful, adventurous, and very, very rich. And quite honestly, that about sums her up in the original timeline. Tomb Raider 1 through Angel of Darkness introduced us to the first and rather vapid one-dimensional Lara, the same one credited with originating the term cyberbabe. Raised in the British aristocracy, Lara lived a life of privilege and ease. After surviving a plane crash and being forced to survive in the wilderness solo, however, she grew disenchanted and bored by upper-class society. She set off on her own to become an adventurer, and later an archaeologist, though her parents were dismayed and ultimately disowned her. Needing money, she turned to writing travel guides to fund her trips around the world. The early games follow a very predictable pattern, in which Lara is contacted by someone looking for assistance. That individual is almost always working for another, far more powerful person. They seek pieces of artifacts scattered throughout the world, and once joined, they create a device that bestow world-dominating power upon the owner. Considering how we all know how that ends, it's no surprise that Lara must find a way to stop them and ensure that no one else will ever get their hands on the item. While details and locations change, the stories mostly remain the same. Even Legend and its sequel Underworld follow a similar, though not identical, path. It's 2013's Tomb Raider that truly introduces us to a humanized Lara. Complex, flawed, vulnerable, and unsure. Young and untested, she and her crew set out on an expedition. Venturing into the Dragon's Triangle, the ship is overtaken by the weather and crashes upon a nearby island. Lara and her friends are separated, and in their pursuit, Lara discovers a plot, a legend, and a reality so far beyond her wildest imaginings, it's hard to believe she'll ever make it out in one piece. No more do we find ourselves seeking artifact after artifact. Instead, Lara must fight, brutally, desperately, to survive. And yes, there are challenges and puzzles and inventive histories that will delight our need for story. But the reboot's true skill, and this includes Rise of the Tomb Raider as well as Shadow, is giving us a character we can easily empathize with, whether we're escaping a captor, fleeing a collapsing, disease-ridden tomb, or reuniting with loved ones while mourning those we lost. Lara Croft began life as an unconventional but rather flat male fantasy action hero. Often dismissed as little more than a fembot, it would take years for Lara to be fleshed out, empathized with, and subsequently recognized for what she is now, one of the best female protagonists on the market. One that truly stirs our empathy and our drives to protect and teach and survive. But it's important to note that even in her original incarnation, she was groundbreaking for her day. When the first Tomb Raider was released, a female-led game was considered so financially risky that no one was even testing the waters. Aside from a twist at the end of a Metroid game which revealed Samus as a woman and Ms. Pac-Man, the pickings were pretty slim. Lara was groundbreaking in her release, opening a door for many of the games we have now. She defined a generation of gamers, introduced girls to a new, capable role model, and despite the cries from critics, lingered on in popular culture, inspiring both lust and admiration, and leading to a truly exceptional reboot, one that's highlighting the gaming community's desire for complex characters and empathy-rich storytelling. The novelist John Green often says that books belong to their readers, and so one might say Lara belongs to the audiences that have guided her through her journeys. Core design may have initially given us an unusual but unfeatured character to explore the world with, but we've made, with our time and our admiration and our fantasies and our love, an icon for gamers, for young girls, and for storytellers. Lara Croft's legacy does not rest in the game's series, but in the people she's inspired, and the risks more and more developers are now willing to take because of her success. Whether you prefer the cyberbabe or the survivalist, one thing's certain. We're all glad those pointy boobs are gone forever.
Hey, if you enjoyed this video, please like and comment below.
And while you're down there, make sure to hit subscribe. We do videos like this one every week. Stay perfect!